for this. So I just wanted to welcome everyone to this Lunch and Learn. I'm super excited to host it here with Cris, and it's just the first one. So any feedback later will be great, but I'm really excited. So I think you can all see my screen here. I will a couple of house. Cris is from Railbookers here in Canada, a Yankee leisure travel, and we work together to provide rail experiences around the world. So thank you, Cris, for joining us today and sharing the world of rail with us.
Oh, it's so nice to be with you and your folks, Bronwen. Thanks for having me.
Yeah. So just a little bit of housekeeping. We will put everyone on mute while Cris and I are sharing the information with you, but we do have a chat box. So I do encourage you to put all of your questions and your chat in there. Feel free to comment. And then towards the end, we'll have a question and answer. So if you have specific questions, we're only a small group here, but we can unmute and then feel free to ask your questions. So perfect. All right, so I'm gonna stop that there. All right, so I approached Cris about doing this topic of how rail transforms family vacations, because for me, it's such an easy way for families to get around on their travels. I have done a couple of train travels myself, and I really like that everyone gets to see the scenery. And there's no arguing about directions. Yeah. So my first thing that I wanted to share was so Railbookers operates and coordinates train vacations around the world. Cris, if you can share with us from your perspective why families choose rail instead of, say, renting a car or flying from point A to B.
Okay, well, yeah, I think it's quite there are a lot of reasons, Bronwen, and so I think I have some good answers for that. Look, I think rail really is a very family-friendly travel format and a way to go about your transportation from A to B when you're on vacation. One of the things that I love most about the train from this point of view is that it's a very spacious environment, and you're not confined to your seat when you're on the train. You can get up and you can move around. When you're traveling with small children and you've got a family going on vacation together, we all know, one of the biggest bugbears is, as soon as you pull out onto the highway in the car, that's when they need to use the washroom. When you're on the train, one of the lovely things is that everyone can go to the loo whenever they like. Motor coach travel, the washroom is a bit of a problem as well. Use of the onboard washrooms on motor coaches is highly discouraged, especially for number two, I mean, if we have to say that. But, so that's one of the things about the train. It's like your environment is just very conducive to going and exploring, walking around, stretching your legs, taking in the different things and places aboard the train, sort of to keep you occupied. You can spend time in the observation car, the lounge car. If you've got a multi-generational family traveling together, grandparents and kids can go sit in the lounge car and play cards or do a puzzle or play a game. You can then come back to your seat. You can go get a snack. The day is broken up by, meals in the dining car. So the whole experience is an enormous amount of fun for a family traveling together. Furthermore, train is a city center to city center transportation format. So you avoid the problem and the hassle of dealing with transfers from airports into city centers. So when you arrive in the destination, you're right there, you're in the middle of the city, and you're a stone's throw from the attractions and the things that you came to explore and do and see in that city. And you're usually right in the heart of the action, that part of the city where tourists are going to want to come, and you can stroll around the various neighborhoods and get the feel of the place.
Yeah, it's super convenient, right? So, and you go from your hotel to the train station. It's really quick in terms of checking in, usually dropping off your luggage. You don't have to walk for kilometers and kilometers or between terminals, right?
No, exactly.
to find your train, right?
Just think of your home train station where you are. I mean, I'm not sure, you guys are in Whistler, right?
Yeah. Yeah.
So I don't know about Whistler, but let's say Vancouver,
Yeah.
the station is right there. It's steps away from the water, from the downtown, exactly where you'd want to be if you're a visitor in Vancouver. Access to Stanley Park Trail just down the way. And the other thing about trains as well, which I love about it, is that the whole family gets to experience the destination at eye level. So even when you're going between towns aboard the train, you get the feel for the countryside. You look at the countryside, the villages, the towns. I've traveled with my children on the train through Italy, and when you're going through, you kind of get to see the hilltop towns, through Tuscany and the whole. I could explain to my children some of the history of why they built towns on hilltops, back in the Middle Ages when they did that. And
I know the castle ruins you see are like fantastic, right?
Exactly.
Yeah.
Exactly. So you're traveling through the countryside, not flying over the countryside. And there are a couple of other things about train travel. Some of the rail operators that we work with actually have special facilities to make it especially conducive for families. Like Amtrak, they can actually ensuite 2 compartments to make basically a bedroom for 4. So two rooms with 2 double beds. They take the partition down in between. You get a room with 4 beds and 2 bathrooms. And all the rail operators are very, very, what's the word? They're very in tune with kids. Hospitable. Kids and the needs of kids and families. They provide activity packs with puzzles and coloring books. And, importantly to bear in mind as well, there's no minimum age on the trains. And some of the rail operators have no charge for children under 5 as well.
Yeah. And I mean, traveling by train, everything, like a lot of the conversations now is about sustainable travel and how can we reduce our carbon footprint when we travel. And a train is actually one of the most friendly kind of travel methods that we have, right?
Yes, from an environmental standpoint, definitely traveling by train is one of the best ways to go if you are concerned about that, which I think we all should be in this day and age. Just to give you an idea, the emissions, the carbon emissions for a train are about 1/3 they would be for a plane in terms of carbon emissions per passenger per kilometer. So, much, much better than flying. It's about equivalent to if you were going in a car with 4 people or traveling in a motor coach in terms of the amount of carbon that you're using up per person. So generally, if you look at all the different modes of transportation, trains are right down there at the bottom in terms of the least impact on the environment, for sure. So a good choice if you if that's your concern. And of course, it differs whether it's a diesel train or electric train, how the electricity is generated in that particular country. But on the whole, very, very environmentally friendly.
Yeah. And so I know that you have a few itineraries that are super scenic. Do you want to share those with us now?
Sure. I'd actually laid out my slideshow in kind of two different sections, Bronwen. When, let me just see here.
Because the few that we had talked about, I started researching them and I was just awestruck by the images that I came up with, and I was like, I want to go and see that now.
So when we were chatting initially, you had said to me, you know, that there were a lot of destinations that you had traveled to, and you'd noticed that like it's a particularly nice way to experience the scenery and the surroundings from the train. And so I came up with a few of these scenic rail travel destinations. And then, you know, the sort of second part of my slideshow was one of the other things you'd asked, which was, you know, of the itineraries that we have at Railbookers, which of these journeys, these rail journeys is most conducive for families. So I'm going to start off going through the destinations, you know, these amazing rail travel destinations where the scenery available to you from the window of the trains is just absolutely breathtaking. Screen share, just let me know when the screen is visible.
Yeah.
You have it?
It's getting there.
Okay, takes a minute or two.
Yeah, I think so. Yeah. Yeah. And one of the things that I really liked about a couple of the trains that you suggested was the fact that the windows are so large that, you know, you get to see it. You know, when you're in a plane, it's this little round window and you're going like this to try and find the most view. But these ones, the windows were floor to ceiling. It was great. Yeah.
Exactly. Yeah.
We can see your screen now.
They specifically design and engineer the rail cars in order to maximize that experience for the clients, for the guests, you know, because that is the main attraction on these journeys. Like Switzerland is probably the world's premier scenic rail destination. And yeah, I can show you some of these trains. You know, that's a map of Switzerland, and basically the whole country is connected by train. And the Swiss engineers very ingeniously have created, you know, dating back sometimes 100 years, they created these unbelievable feats of engineering to build these rail routes through the mountains, through the most, you know, sort of mind-boggling terrain with rail lines going across gorges, straight into granite cliff faces, and all the while, you know, you get the benefit of these views.
Yeah, the Glacier Express has like 55 tunnels or something.
That's right.
200 bridges.
You got it. Exactly. That's
no
this
flatland there.
The Bernina has 196 bridges and 55 tunnels.
Yeah.
A journey that takes about 4 hours. And as you said, Bronwen, you know, the rail cars have these incredible panoramic windows to feature the view. In the summertime, they actually put a car on the back which has no windows at all, so that guests can actually ride in these open cars for, you know, maximum exposure to the surrounding scenery and views.
So you get to smell the fresh mountain air at the same time.
Exactly. You can see in the picture at the right that the train is going on a curve. The reason, you know, there are lots of roundabouts and curves in this line because trains can only ascend at a maximum grade of 11 degrees. And in order to go up the mountains, they had to engineer the routes in such a way that the rails went, you know, often they have to go around and they have to go on curves and bends and switchbacks and hairpins. Because that's the only way it can go on that 11-degree grade. So very, very ingenious, as you would imagine, you know, the Swiss railroad builders and engineers to be.
Yeah.
And really quite an experience. The Bernina Express is a half-a-day journey, takes about 4.5 hours. You're traveling fairly slowly because, again, the rails are windy and it's quite a narrow gauge. But really, you know, the scenery, the views, the experience is, you know, unmatched by anything else you'd find anywhere in the world. The other famous Swiss scenic sightseeing train is the Glacier Express, which travels between St. Moritz and Zermatt. It's about an 8-hour journey. Again, all the cars have panoramic domed windows, so you really feel that you're at one with the environment outside. They're designed, and the glass is a special glass designed to really kind of make you feel like there's nothing between you and the Alps outside. That's the Landwasser Viaduct, probably the most famous iconic bridge of the Glacier Express, going across a steep gorge, and there you can see it. It goes into the rock face.
And
Takes about 8 hours.
Yeah, because you're traveling so slow, you can take your beautiful pictures and have things to bring home, right?
Absolutely. Pictures, videos. And again, like any other train, you know, there's a lot to do on board, and you can spend time. You can go to, they have an incredible restaurant with, you know, chefs that use locally sourced ingredients to make these fine, you know, European meals. Meal aboard the Glacier Express costs $30 to $45 per head, so it is a little bit of an indulgence, but what an experience. You know, drinking
look at
fine
all that
wine.
Space. You've got more space than a high-end restaurant in there.
Really. Incredibly spacious. It's another thing about rail travel is that, you know, particularly nowadays when people are concerned about crowding and about distancing and isolation and having enough space between them and fellow passengers on whatever kind of mode of transportation they may be taking, you know, I think rail travel is a very good option from that point of view. Even if you're traveling in economy class or coach class on any of the rail operators worldwide, be it a European regional train or Amtrak or Via Rail, the seats are, you know, very, very far apart, and you never have a middle seat. There are no middle seats on trains. There are only aisles and windows.
Yeah. And I mean, what's better than having a locally sourced meal with wine with that gorgeous view? I mean, you can't get better, can you?
Exactly.
Yeah.
And then in Switzerland, you know, most of the journeys that we have at Railbookers incorporate these mountain trains as well. So the Glacier and the Bernina are, you know, getting you from A to B, whether it be St. Moritz to Tirano in northern Italy or St. Moritz to Zermatt in the case of the Glacier Express. So you're traveling along a route, and then there are also these day sightseeing excursions on the mountain trains that go up to the summits of these famous Swiss peaks. In this case, the Gornergrat, which is in Zermatt, and that's famous for being the best place to see the Matterhorn, the best possible vantage point to have that view of the Matterhorn, which rises up above the town of Zermatt, is on the Gornergrat. So you take a day trip up to the top of this mountain and have amazing views of the iconic Matterhorn on the way. Another of the Swiss trains that's interesting, also very famous, the Golden Pass, running between Interlaken and Montreux on the eastern side of the country, and it has these two choices of rail car that you can book, either the traditional or the panoramic. The panoramic have the modern panoramic windows where you feel like you're, you know, at one with nature, and then the traditional trains are like decorated in a Belle Epoque style, so you get to feel like you're
beautiful.
You know, exploring Europe in the manner of the people of yesteryear.
And that history is also one of the things I love about train travel, especially when you go into a train station and the architecture, a lot of them were built many, many years ago, and they're not the modern all windows, carpet, like stainless steel, void of any atmosphere, whereas a lot of train stations have so much decorative, minute detail that is just beautiful to admire.
Absolutely. It's usually a grand room, you know, the main terminal of a train, any train station. I mean, ours here in Toronto is absolutely spectacular, one of the city's best known heritage buildings, and you know, Washington DC, anywhere you go. So, you know, step off with the kids and it's like a real wow factor, the station.
Yeah, for sure.
Pilatus is another mountain train famous for being the steepest cog train in the world. They have to use cogs to get these trains up the mountains because, you know, the grades are much steeper than 11 degrees. In fact, the Pilatus ascends at a grade of 48 degrees, making it the steepest in the world, so much so that the windows actually have to be set into the train car at an angle, and your drink holder is on a hinge. Otherwise, your drink would fall over when you're going up the mountain. So,
That's awesome.
and the Jungfrau, highest rail station in Europe, 11,000 feet. Another day trip that's from Interlaken. So Switzerland, just full of amazing train experiences. And of course, on any of these itineraries, you're visiting and spending time in the best known Swiss towns and cities, including places like Lucerne and of course Zermatt, St. Moritz, the ski resorts. Lausanne, going down into northern Italy and Lugano as well, Interlaken, Geneva, Zurich. So yeah, so that's the Swiss trains. The other scenic rail area that I wanted to mention was Canada. Right on our own doorstep, we have probably the world's most popular and most famous scenic sightseeing train, the Rocky Mountaineer. That's a picture of it there. Domed floor-to-ceiling windows. It's a luxury sightseeing train experience. I put this in itinerary because what we do at Railbookers is we have itineraries that combine Via Rail and the Rocky Mountaineer. So Rocky Mountaineer is a daytime sightseeing train, and then Via Rail, this is the Canadian here, which is the Toronto-Vancouver service, which is an overnight train, which also travels through the Rockies, so you can do it either way.
It is on my list.
Accommodations on board Via are really nice, and bear in mind on the trains your accommodations are completely private and isolated. You have a door which slides shut and locks from the inside. You can have your meals served to you in your compartment. So it could be a great idea for that first foray back out into the world when we're released from lockdown and we can go out and start exploring once again. And if you really want to go all out and do Canada in 5-star luxury, there's the Via Rail Prestige, which is just spectacular.
Yeah, there's lots of comfort there. You will not feel like you're in a confined space for sure.
Via Prestige is honestly a 5-star hotel on wheels. Magnificent, spacious bathroom, full double bed, 5-star cuisine, something very special. And on all of these rail journeys through the Rockies, there's sightseeing included, showing off all the highlights in Banff, Jasper, going up the Icefields Parkway in a coach and out onto the glacier, and checking out all these amazing wonders of the Rockies. And we put all that into the itinerary, so it's not just rail from A to B, but while you're there, all of these sightseeing experiences are included. You're picked up in the morning. It's a private sightseeing excursion going out to explore what the destination has to offer. And again, Rocky Mountaineer, gives you some idea of the experience on board. There are 2 classes, the gold class and the platinum. Basically, they're both extremely luxurious. In the platinum, you have your meal in a dining room, and in the gold class, you have your meal served to you at the seats.
Yeah.
Yeah.
It's fantastic. Yeah.
The next
you don't get that in a rental car.
No. Unless you, unless you hire a butler to come with you,
Yeah.
The next scenic rail destination I thought I'd mention, because it's much talked about, very famous, is Norway, known for one of the most famous and storied, scenic rail journeys in the world, which is the Flumsbane, the Flum Railway between Myrdal and Flum. So it goes basically from the fjord side city of Flum town up into the mountains in Myrdal. Again, one of these marvels of engineering. It has 20 tunnels. It took 20 years to build. Norwegians are very proud of it, and it's consistently ranked one of the most beautiful rail journeys in the world.
Dedication, right? It's dedication. 20 years to build it.
20 years to build, yeah. And then there's the US. Some of the US train routes are also very, very famous for their scenery, notably the Empire Builder, which runs between Chicago and Seattle, going through the Northern Rockies, spectacular. and of course, chance to see the cities on either end, as well as the great attraction in the middle of that is Glacier National Park, where many people spend time. Absolutely magnificent U.S. national park. And I always say, during lockdown, I just have an intense desire to be that fellow over there. While I haven't been further than the curb to take out my garbage for the last 8 weeks. Wouldn't it be wonderful to stand on a mountainside overlooking?
Yeah, no kidding, right? Watching that change over the spring would have been amazing.
The other great scenic U.S. rail routes, and Bronwen had mentioned to me, often on the trains you see things that you can't see from the highway, and this is the ultimate example: the Coast Starlight route on Amtrak, which runs between Seattle and Los Angeles, going down the Pacific coast. Just totally spectacular, and you're right there with these unimpeded coastline sea views, which you would not get from the highway.
Mm-hmm.
And then there's
for our conference last year down in Seattle, I actually took the train down from Vancouver, and it's a very different perspective than going along I-5.
I'm sure. And that portion, I'm sure, particularly so, going through the mountains and having that beautiful mountain scenery up in the north.
Yeah.
California Zephyr, another iconic scenic route with Amtrak going from Chicago to San Francisco. So here you're going through Colorado, through Gold Rush country, the Southern Rockies, and again, another perspective on the amazing U.S. landscapes. And here you see just a little bit of traveling overnight aboard Amtrak. They have roomettes, two double beds, no washroom. And then they have bedrooms where you have a washroom in your cabin. And with all of those sleeper accommodations, you have your meals included. And just to, the other great rail destination for scenery, Alaska. Alaskan rail traveling between the southern part of the state in Seward, right up to the northern part in Fairbanks, traveling through Denali National Park. The icon, the most famous landmark of Denali is Mount McKinley, the highest peak in North America.
Yeah.
And of course, you get to explore Kenai Fjords National Park as well on that rail line. In Seward, where you go out on a catamaran and you see glaciers calving and whales, and just another wonderful sightseeing experience out in nature.
Oh, and Cassie says that she's done Alaska by rail, and it was incredible. Yeah, there's so much natural beauty up there to get us to experience. Going over it doesn't do it justice, right?
No, and don't get me started on like why it's preferable to do it by rail than cruise, because I got so many reasons. But for one thing, you get to overnight in Denali. You actually get to stay in the lodge in Denali National Park, wake up there, see the sunset there, and have an entire day sightseeing excursion out in Denali. So that's unique. That's on cruise ships. I've done an Alaska cruise and was great, but really you're not really getting a taste of the real Alaska, because you're mainly on cruise ports that are primarily there to serve the cruise tourist trade.
Yeah. So at this time, I just wanted to open it up to the participants here, see if anyone had any questions in regards to rail travel and destinations or anything along those lines, just to give you an opportunity to get that out. So I can unmute everyone here because we're all kind of being fairly quiet, I think. So yeah. Anita and Ted, have you got any plans for rail travel? Did you have any specific questions that you wanted to ask while we're both here?
No, I actually, well, I don't know about Ted, but I just came to see about ideas because it never occurred to me to look into rail travel. But Switzerland looked gorgeous, and Alaska.
Yeah.
Alaska. I never even knew about rail travel in Alaska. So these are all ideas that will percolate.
Well, and I know you guys have traveled quite a bit too, so it's great that we can still inspire you.
Yeah.
Yeah. Okay. Did anyone? So Kathy was asking about post-COVID travel by rail ideas. So Cris, do you want to give an update on the Canadian that you shared with me earlier, and kind of what that scene is going to look like, in the next 6 to 12 months?
Sure. Well, Via Rail in Canada have taken the decision to suspend service on their overnight rail routes, the Canadian and the Ocean, which run respectively between Toronto and Vancouver, the Canadian, and Quebec City and Halifax, the Ocean. Those are suspended until October 31st, resuming only in November. The reason for that VIA has given is that the interprovincial regulations differ, and so their journeys that cross so many different provinces, they've found it necessary to suspend until then. So anyone looking to do a Trans-Canadian or Rocky Mountain train journey, on Via, it'll be in the fall or into 2021. Rocky Mountaineer, as far as I'm aware, is resuming their operations in the summer at some point, I believe sometime in July.
Yeah.
And then Amtrak is running. Amtrak is deemed to be an essential service in the US, and they're operating. However, they have instituted a whole raft of new safety protocols, and they've really taken it very seriously. Every surface is being wiped down on regular intervals. A whole new system of sanitizing the trains. Staff wearing masks, gloves, and just an entire new routine of how they're going to be operating.
Yeah, that's going to be across most forms of travel too, right? For the foreseeable future.
Right.
But at least then we can get out and go somewhere and have some precautions in place and reduce our risk significantly, right?
Yes, I think it's a reality, and it's a good thing that travel operators worldwide have really stepped up and addressed, faced head on how they need to change and provide all the necessary procedures and precautions for people to be assured that they're going to be they're not going to be exposed.
Yeah.
Trains, I think, comparatively are a very good environment from that point of view. Also, bringing your meal to your room is a new thing that Amtrak have implemented as well.
Okay.
They'll take your order in your bedroom and bring it from the dining car.
Yeah, perfect. Well, we did want to keep this session short. We did go a little bit longer, but I think it was all really helpful information. And so I wanted to thank you, Cris, for joining us, and for the visitors here. I'll just do if you wanted to get in contact with me in regards to travel, these are my contact details. And I am working on putting a few extra rail travel trips up onto my website, so you can follow up on that inspiration there. And then our next Lunch and Learn will be in 2 weeks, and we'll be talking about sustainable travel tips and how you can have a more sustainable travel experience. That will be with the Director of Global Programs from Planetara, who is the nonprofit organization affiliated with the Canadian tour operator G Adventures. So I'm really excited to have that conversation too. So yeah, again, thanks, Cris, so much for all the information that you gave us today and for sharing those itineraries with us. I think we all got a poke for the travel bug again. So that's really nice.
Thank you.
Thank you, Bronwen. Thanks so much.
Thanks everyone.
Thank you. Thanks so much. It was great. It's a great session.
Thank you.
Bye, guys.
Bye-bye.
Take care, Bronwen.
Thanks.
Oh,